Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we save a little bit of time to take live questions from the audience, but we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But if you sent in one of those live questions, I want to make sure they get answered properly in a video, so we gather up those unused questions and we address them here on companion videos. So listen, we got a bunch to get through here today, so let's not waste any time and jump right into it. And the first question we're going to start getting caught up on today comes to us from Call of Duty God, who writes, I live in Orlando, Florida. Cool. And you have to stay on Universal property. It's so much better when you're going to the parks, early access and boat ferry to the park. But I have two gems that are a lot of fun to watch: Fire in the Sky and Breakdown with Kurt Russell. So thumbs up. So thank you so much for that, Call of Duty God. And thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level. I really appreciate that. And everybody here does too. Why Call of Duty God is mentioning that is because in a few weeks, Ann and I, it's going to be Ann's birthday in a few weeks. And Ann, this is my wife, she wanted to go to Florida so we can go to WrestleMania. That's what my wife wanted to do for her birthday. So sure thing, hun. But while we're down there, we're going to go to Universal parks as well. One of the viewers was so gracious to reach out to me and got me and Ann free passes to Universal. So thank you so much for that. And we're going to go down there. And I haven't booked a hotel yet, but maybe I should take your advice here, Call of Duty God. I'm thinking maybe I should actually find one of the Universal properties to stay on and stay there. So thank you so much for that word of advice. And I will definitely keep our eyes open for Fire in the Sky. And I've never been. I mean, I've been to Florida once. And I went down to Orlando for Star Wars Celebration Orlando. And I had a wonderful time. Like just a fabulous time in Orlando while I was down there. So I'm looking forward to go back down again. So thank you for the input, man. All right, next up, Kenneth Colton writes, hey, Gio, today's movie quote is, if you ride the lightning or ride like lightning, you're going to crash like thunder. Side note, RIP Max von Sydow, 7-decade career, 100 plus films. And yeah, we've been talking about the passing of Max von Sydow for the last couple of days and such. It's just, you don't feel sorrow because he lived such a full, long, awesome life. But you feel, as a movie fan, you feel sorrow because, man, we are never again in anything new going to be graced with his incredible iconic face and voice and prowess. And, you know, one of the things that Robert and I talked about when we covered this was the fact that he just exuded power. There was something about Max that just exuded power whenever he was on screen, and that's going to be missed. The quote is from that Bradley Cooper, Ryan Gosling, Ben Mendelsohn, Eva Mendes movie. I always freeze on the name of the movie. It's Behind the Pines, or the trees behind the pines, or the forest behind the pines, or something like that. I remember that's the movie that's from. Everybody loved that movie. I got to admit, I didn't love it. I didn't dislike it, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those films I didn't actually like nearly as much as most other people did. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, Kenneth. Okay, next up here, who do we got? We got DAL, who writes, do you think there will be a special edition for the Harry Potter films as the movie franchise turns 20 next year? I would love to have a special edition with more deleted scenes or something. I don't know. I mean, studios are always looking for cheap, easy ways to make some quick money. I mean, the movies are already made, so slap them together in a special anniversary package and get stupid suckers like me, which I do this all the time, buy them up, you know, all that kind of stuff. At least I used to. I don't buy physical media anymore. But I used to do that. If there was a movie I loved, you could say, celebrating our 6-month anniversary edition. I'd buy that one too. I swear to God, I bought like 4 different versions of the Lord of the Rings things when they came out. So anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. The question becomes, though, with special edition stuff is, how many more deleted scenes exist? At this point, I feel like anything that was worth seeing, they've probably shown, but I don't know, but I would be surprised, DAL. I'd be surprised if they didn't take advantage of the anniversary in some way, shape, or form. So let's see what happens there, but I think they probably will. NR99 writes, John, the ultimate question. Funko Pops kept inside the boxes at all times, yes or no? Also, which is your favorite Funko Pop purchase? Well, my favorite Funko Pop purchase is actually my most recent one. I showed this on the show the other day, but I got this Disneyland exclusive giant Indiana Jones with the totem in his hand and everything. Look at the size of this sucker. Look at the size of this thing. This is my favorite purchase. it's not necessarily my favorite pop, but it's my favorite purchase. I have a lot of pops. I have a lot of them. And as you can see from behind me here, let me pull up maybe a slightly better view here. As you can see from behind me, I do keep them in their boxes. However, the reason I keep them in the boxes is not probably the same reason that some other people do. Like, I don't believe in, ooh, I don't want to lower their value. Ooh, I don't want them to get damaged. No. That's not why I keep them in the box. I simply keep them in the box because it's a much easier way to display them. You see them, I've got them stacked on top of each other and stuff like that with them in their boxes. Not to mention, I think the boxes are beautiful, but I personally just keep them in their boxes because it's so much easier to display and stack than it would be if they were out of their boxes. I couldn't put near as many on display or have them out for me to look at and be inspired by if they were out of the boxes. So for me, I keep them in the boxes, but that's only because it is the most effective and efficient way that I can display as many as possible. So that's why I keep them in the box. No other reason why. If I had like 30 different shelves, then I could put them all on display outside of the box. Maybe I'd put them outside of the box, but I keep them in the box just for display purposes. All right. Thanks for asking on R99 these important questions. All right. Jeffrey Hemphill writes, Blumhouse should remake Phantasm, but still set in the late 1970s. Rob should direct it. Chris, Aaron, and you should also act in it seriously. Oh, I'm all for Rob directing that. And I'm all for Aaron and Chris appearing in it. You don't want me appearing in it. I cannot act. Oh, at all. I know this because I appeared in my award-winning short film that me and a bunch of buddies of mine did. It was a Star Wars The Phantom Menace fan film that we did. And it was a cross between The Phantom Menace and The Godfather, and we called it Rise of the Trades, and in which I played the villain. I played the bad guy in the film, and I was terrible. No, I know you're thinking you know what terrible is. You don't understand just how bad I was in it. I cannot act. So the Rob part, yes. The Chris part, yes. The Aaron part, absolutely. The me part, not so much. Not so much. Anyway, James Argento writes, would you consider Ben-Hur a faith-based film? That's a good question that's come before. No, I do not. There is certainly, amongst many, there is a faith theme amongst many, many others that's kind of buried in the film. So like, I would equate that with the same like Hacksaw Ridge. There is a faith theme in Hacksaw Ridge, but it was really more a character movie than anything else. It is kind of buried in there. A lot of faith-based movies, they are made exclusively with the communication of the message of that faith. That's the main reason they're made. And so, no, I don't consider Ben-Hur a faith-based film, although it certainly does, amongst many themes, have a faith theme in it. But there are some others that do that as well. But no, I don't consider it a faith-based film. But I think there's a good debate to be had there about that. Dido Cortez writes, as a Christian, I agree with you that faith-based films movies suck. For me, my favorite religious movies are, I just mentioned Hacksaw Ridge and Prince of Egypt. I like Prince of Egypt too, by the way. Look at your life through heaven's eyes. Right? I love that song. Danny Glover did that voice, by the way, because they were good movies first and were not made with an explicit religious agenda. I don't even like using the word agenda, message. Those were movies that were made as movies first, and they weren't made exclusively to have a religious message. That's where I draw the distinction between faith-based movies and say some movies that maybe have one of many faith-based themes in it. But I think that's a good distinction right there, Dido. I think you nailed it right on the head there. Adam K writes, better Jon Favreau film, Jungle Book or Lion King? I'm going to be in the minority here. I love Jungle Book. I'm in the minority here. I like Lion King even more. And maybe part of it was because of nostalgia, but for whatever the reasons, I didn't nearly cry in Jungle Book. I nearly had tears in my eyes watching Lion King. So I will be in the minority on this one, and I'm going to go Lion King. Although I like them both very much. Josie Reviews writes, just got my tickets for Gambit on Thursday. Oh God, was this when the Gambit movie was supposed to come? Remember, there was a Gambit movie. They announced a release date. Was that this coming Thursday? Oh, we're going to have to do something about that on the show on Thursday. I got to go look that up again, but if that's true, that's funny. Okay, Danielle Hinoja writes, really intrigued by the upcoming film Antebellum. I don't know much about it other than Janelle, McBee, Monet. Anyways, and it's a little horror film of some sorts. That's really all I know about it. I know one of the girls from, not Kick-Ass. What's the Sucker Punch? I know one of the girls from Sucker Punch is in there, but I really don't know much about it. So unfortunately, I can't say I'm looking forward to it because I don't know much about it. Charles R. just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Charles. Sean Strickland sends in a large ship. Thank you, Sean, for supporting the channel on that level. And Sean writes, thanks for being you, John. No problem. No one can do what you pull off every day easily. Keep up the hard work and bring us the filthy. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate that. And I'm not going to lie, it's challenging. One of the things, one of the biggest things I miss about being a part of a bigger organization or having more funds or whatever is having a technical director, is having somebody to technically run the show while I just host the show. Because, this isn't let me see if I can pull up this little, I'm not sure that I can. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pull up my webcam here. I can't right now. Anyway, let me bring up this other thing, this camera here. So you can see I have 4 monitors in front of me. There's this one, and then the one down here with all different types of information. And I have 4 interfaces in front of me. I have the soundboard over here. I have my control panel, my Wirecast control panel over here, which is bigger than my keyboard. Then, of course, I have my keyboard. And then if you want to count the mouse as an interactive device, then fine. So I've got these 4 things that I'm trying to control while controlling camera, while controlling scrolling through questions, while controlling audio and keeping an eye on everything. And right now it's easier than doing it live because then I'm also trying to I have to keep a half eye on the stream, make sure the stream is still working, keep half of an eye every few minutes over at the live chat to see if there's any problems going on, and doing all that while trying to think about the show and think about the topics we're discussing and all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking to Christian about it, and Christian said, no way, I can't do it. So Christian's got to get he gets an intern or somebody to do it because it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not impossible either. It's not like it's not brain surgery, but it's not easy, particularly when you're trying to focus your mind on the topics at hand. But that is the one thing that if I could, say the one thing that I miss about being a part of a larger organization a bit is having a crew. Having a crew would be really nice. But anyway, Sean, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Charles R. sends in another super chat just to be supportive. Thank you, Charles. Darkwing Duck writes, I just watched the trailer for the newest Justice League animated movie, and I'm very excited to see it. Have you seen the trailer yet? If so, what do you think? Thank you, and bring on the filthy. I'll be honest with you, Darkwing Duck. I do not like Marvel or DC animated stuff. There are exceptions. There are a few exceptions for both. But generally speaking, I don't like them. I find them, what my opinion of them is unimportant. I don't like them. They're not for me. So, and again, there are a couple of key exceptions to that. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, Under the Red Hood, Marvel's Doctor Strange. So there are a couple, but for the most part, they do not work for me at all. So I have no interest in them. I have no desire to watch the trailers for them or anything like that. They just generally haven't worked for me. But I'm glad they work for you. That's the important thing. So I'm happy that you enjoy it. All right. Chris Skalicki writes, with Rob postulating a kick-ass opening scene with Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy, given the nature of both franchises and Taika's style, how cool would it be to open with a Rocky IV-esque training montage where Thor is working to get in shape with the Guardians' help? That's been suggested a lot. A lot of people have brought that up. That the next Guardians movie or the next Thor movie needs to start out with an exercise montage with, Star-Lord. Because you remember in the last movie, Star-Lord's talking about he's got to get in shape. He's going to commit, he says. I have a feeling they're not going to cover that. But as I've said before, it would be fun if they did. But maybe too many people are expecting it now, and they won't do it just because too many people are expecting it. Don't know, maybe, who knows for sure. But again, a lot of people have been speculating that. I have a feeling they're not going to touch it. We're just going to come back in the movies and he's going to be back in shape. But a little bit of an opening, workout montage to have them both whip back into shape. It would be crazy cool to see Star-Lord doing all this stuff and then Thor standing beside him, like still as heavy Thor, and just holding up Stormbreaker and lightning strikes and he's back to his full physique just like that while Star-Lord is working really hard. That could be funny too. The Jenks writes, Facing the Giants was a good faith-based movie. Was it though? I mean, if you enjoyed it, that's great. Facing the Giants is, it's a football movie about a bunch of kids who play football. If I'm remembering it correctly, it was like back in 2004, 2005, something like that. It was directed by a guy named Alex Kendrick. And I had heard decent things about it. And so I decided to watch it despite my aversion to faith-based films. Didn't work for me. But if it worked for you, that's all that's important. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, brother. All right. Next up. Jake Ayer writes, Top 10 of 2019, and what a year 2019 was in film. Number 10, Hotel Mumbai. That movie was great. Number 9, Dolomite. Great. Number 8, Rocketman. Really good. Number 7, Irishman. Number 6, Ford v Ferrari. Number 5, Joker. Number 4, Knives Out. Number 3, 1917. Number 2, Parasite. And number 1, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I wanted to like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood more. I did. And it's good. I liked it. I went to see it 2 or 3 times in the theaters. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I give it a thumbs up. I like it. And the performances were stunningly good. But it's not in my top tier. There's a top tier of Quentin Tarantino movies and there's a lower tier of Quentin Tarantino movies. And I kind of put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood one of the lower tier. But even most of the films in his lower tier are still good movies. So that says a lot about Quentin Tarantino as a director. But yeah, not my favorite Quentin Tarantino film. So it didn't end up even in my top 20 personally. But that's the beautiful thing about our different and the subjectivity of films is we all have a little bit of a different experience with them. You saw it and you loved it. It was your number 1 film of the year. And I'm glad you had that kind of enjoyment for it. But I like all the films on your list. All of them. That's just, just how good of a year 2019 was. It is crazy. All right. Russell Amador writes, Hey, John, by the docs, I meant the doc, a.k.a. the doctor, a.k.a. Doctor Strange. Oh, man, I didn't mean to cause confusion. Of course it caused confusion. The docs? That's a short form for documentaries. The docs. Anyway, but I thank you for clarifying. I didn't mean to cause confusion. Gotta laugh at it, though. Anyway, I just read The New Mutants is to feature an LGBTQ relationship. Interesting. They beat the MCU to it. Did they? I guess they sort of did. I mean, Valkyrie... I think they've said Valkyrie's a bisexual character, so that's fine. But they didn't really show anything. They didn't show a relationship. To me, look, movies are meant to be fantastical, yes, but also kind of take place in the world we actually live in. I don't see having gay characters in a movie as any sort of political thing at all. Guess what? The world you live in has gay people in it. Oh my! Yeah, guess what? You do. The world I live in, there are gay people that live in our world. I don't see why. Look, having gay characters in your movie is no more of a political thing than having people with brown hair in your movie. Guess what? There are people who live in your communities with brown hair. So why is it such a stretch to imagine that in a movie that supposedly takes place in our world, that somebody with brown hair is going to be seen? There are some people who have red hair. Or what do they call themselves? Gingers, they call themselves. Okay. They are actually real people in our world. To show them then from time to time in a movie is not any sort of agenda. To keep them out of movies when they are a real part of our world, to keep them out, that's the agenda. That's the agenda. So I just don't understand why anybody gets too excited or too turned off by the idea that we're going to see something in a movie that is actually part of our everyday world. Guess what? Remote controls are part of our everyday world. We're going to see them in a movie. There's no agenda there, just they're in our world, so you might happen to come across some remote controls in a movie. Guess what? Cups are a part of our world. So, in a movie, you might come across a few cups in the movie. You might actually see somebody using a cup. Scandalous. Guess what? There are gay people in our world. Why is it such a big deal to anybody? Since that's real, why is there an agenda in having them in our movie? Grow up. So I don't see there being any idea. I'm not going to praise Marvel for doing it. They're just showing things that are in our world. I ain't going to praise New Mutants for doing it. I'm not going to praise any other movie for doing it. They're just showing something that's in our world. But I'd never understand this agenda to keep things that are real in our real world and keep those things out of our movies because we want to pretend like they don't exist. I've never understood that. Never understood it. It's just the stupidest thing to me in the world. Anyway, we move on. Undead Sick writes, "Hey John, in most of your podcasts I listen to I noticed that you seem to defend the side of the filmmakers more in regards to comic book or game adaptations, etc. Make the best movie possible instead of the fandom culture, where I, as a movie critic, am the exact opposite, which I'm sure you noticed, and I just wonder why that is. Mark Kermode once said, I respect fandom enormously and I want them to be served. Okay, but here's the big difference, Undead Sick. The way you best serve the fandom is to let the creators do their thing because they know how to make movies and you don't. And I don't. You know, one of the reasons I made my movie The Anniversary, which I am supremely proud of, but also very cognizant of the fact that compared to Hollywood standards, it's a bag of crap. But I'm super proud of it. But one of the main reasons I made that movie, besides being I wanted to be somebody that actually did the things that I dreamed about doing and not just dreamed about them. So I made my movie. But one of the other main things was I was doing the movie blog at the time. And I wanted to gain a deeper appreciation and understanding. If I'm going to talk about films and I'm going to talk about movies and I'm going to talk about movie making, I wanted to have a deeper appreciation and respect and understanding for what it is filmmakers actually have to go through and what it is they actually have to do. And the process of making my movie, The Anniversary, was an incredible education for me in learning that. And basically, I think there is a fundamental disrespect that even the most diehard of us fans have for the art of filmmaking. We have a tremendous disrespect for it, a tremendous disrespect, because everybody thinks they can do it. Everybody thinks they can do it. It reminds me of like watching football at my uncle's place, and this professional wide receiver who's trained his whole life in the gym every day, catching 1,000 passes a day, blah, 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 streaking for the end zone, stretches out, drops the ball. Couldn't catch the ball. And my uncle's sitting on the couch going, oh, I could have caught that. No, you fucking couldn't have. No, you couldn't have. And I sometimes find that myself and other film fans were like that. We all think filmmaking is the easiest thing in the world and anybody can do it and my ideas are the best ideas and blah, blah. And we have no fundamental respect for the people that do it. So let me ask you this question. If you had to have heart surgery done on you tomorrow, this is hyperbole. And I'm using a little bit of, a little bit of an exaggerated statement here, okay? A little hyperbolic here, but follow me here. If you were going to have heart surgery next week, who do you want performing the surgery? A heart surgeon or fans of heart surgeons? I'll give you a second to think about that. Do you want fans of heart surgeons performing your surgery? Or do you want, the actual person who trains and works, has dedicated their life to the skill and science and art of heart surgery? Do you want that guy performing your heart surgery? I'll let you think about that. And if you say it's different, then you are demonstrating and of course there is a fundamental difference, but one's life and death, one is not. But it again exhibits the fact that you have no respect for what professional real filmmakers do. And we are all, including this guy right here, we have all been guilty of that. We just assume making movies is easy and all that kind of stuff is easy. See, you say you want to serve the fan community. I am telling you, the way to serve the fan community, just like the best way to serve you getting your heart surgery, is to leave it in the hands of the professionals. Maybe he'll do a great job. Maybe he'll botch it. But 99.999999999% of the time, he's going to do a much better job than a fan of a heart surgeon would do. And that's the thing. The best way to serve the fan community is to let the filmmakers do their thing. Let the filmmakers make the best movie possible. That's it. The Dark Knight is not like any Batman comic book. And all the fans cried and moaned and bitched and sobbed when they got that Brokeback Mountain guy to play Joker. Everybody cried and moaned and bitched and complained, blah, blah, blah. So should they have listened to the fans? Okay, sorry, people don't want Heath Ledger. We got to get rid of him. Thank God they didn't listen. Thank God they went with what they knew. Christopher Nolan's our filmmaker. He's the one who knows what he's doing. Heath Ledger's the guy that he wants. That's what we're going with. That's what we're sticking with. And that's what they did. You know, all these people say, no, you got to make it just like the comics. Guess what? X-Men Days of Future Past, one of the greatest, I believe a top 10 greatest comic book movie ever made. Nothing like the comic. And thank God, they just let them make the best movie possible. Captain America Civil War, nothing like the comic book. There are some thematic similarities, but other than that, totally different. This whole, no, you got to make it just, no, you don't. Thank God that their number one priority was making the best movie possible. And listen, it's not always going to work. It's not always going to work. But that's because of the difficult nature of making films. So you take a guy like Kevin Feige, he doesn't listen to the fandom. He knows what the fandom will like. He doesn't listen to the fandom. He doesn't let the fandom dictate to him what movies he should make and what, but he knows what will work for the fandom. So he goes ahead and makes those movies that he knows the fans are going to embrace and love and geek out of, even if they don't know it yet. Now, I'm not saying that we as film fans should have no voice. I'm not advocating for that at all. But the bottom line is this, is that if my car's busted down and I rely on my car every day to get to work and home, blah, 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 I don't want to take it to a fan of a mechanic. I want to take it to a trained professional who's dedicated their life to the science, art, and craft of fixing cars. I want to take it to them and let them do their thing. I'm not going to take it to my uncle who thinks he knows everything about cars. I'm going to take it to the person who actually knows. And you're suggesting that there's two different things. You either make the best movie possible or you serve the fan community. I am telling this, you are not serving the fan community by not making the best movie possible. You serve the fan community by making the best movie possible. And you make the best movie possible by letting the people who are filmmakers kind of decide which direction they need to take things. And that is why we get the greatest comic book movies of all time. That's why we get Days of Future Past. That's why we get Winter Soldier. That's why we get Civil War. That's why we get The Dark Knight. That's why we get these films, is because we let filmmakers do it and they put on blinders on their ears, they shut out everybody else, and they make their film. What you are suggesting, I propose, is not serving the fan community. It's actually doing a disservice to the fan community. Because following that path will lead to lesser quality movies. And that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody at all. But again, at the root of it comes a fundamental disrespect that we have for how difficult filmmaking is and for the art of filmmaking and the professions and the professionals who have dedicated their lives to training and studying in the art and craft of making films, when all of us sit back and say, no, we know what's best. We know what's best. And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. I ain't pointing my fingers at anybody. This is me too. I am part of the fucking problem. But that is what we as fans do. We have a fundamental disrespect. And whenever we do, all I do is hear my uncle on the couch going, I could have caught that ball. No, you could have not. You would have gassed out 20 yards before you even got to where the ball ended up. Don't tell me you could have caught that ball. But anyway, that's the thing to me. You want to serve the fan community? You serve the fan community by getting the best movies possible. And you get the best movies possible by telling the filmmakers and the studios who are making them, focus on making the best movie. Don't focus on be as true to the source material as possible. If they did that, we never would have gotten Logan. If they did that, we never would have gotten The Dark Knight. If they did that, we never would have gotten Days of Future Past. And we never would have gotten Civil War. And we never would have gotten Winter Soldier. But we tell our filmmakers and our studios, make the best movie possible. And sometimes you're going to fail. And sometimes you're going to make a stinker. But sometimes you're going to deliver us some of the best, most memorable movies of all time. And they're the ones who are making it. Not me, not you. There you go. So anyway, that's my thought on it. That's just my thought on it. As a film fan who invested a little bit of his time and his own money to make my own movie so I could try to gain a deeper appreciation for what these filmmakers do, believe me, we as film fans want them doing that. That's what we want them doing. But anyway, that's just me. All right, Willow writes, you talked about faith-based movies being terrible. This may be a dumb question, but what is your definition of a faith-based movie? Do movies like Passion of the Christ or Ten Commandments or even the Chronicles of Narnia count? See, that's a good question, Willow, but I think we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier when we were talking about, see, to me, there are movies that have faith elements to them. I don't define those as faith-based movies. Faith-based movies to me, and this is just my personal interpretation of it. Different people could have different interpretations, but to me, a faith-based film is one that the message of that faith is the key central theme and key central purpose of the movie being made. The communication of this faith-based message is the purpose of this movie. I think that is what I define as a faith-based film. When you get a brilliant movie like Hacksaw Ridge, whose central character is a person of faith, but you watch that movie and you realize the purpose of this movie was not to communicate the message of that faith. The purpose of this movie is to communicate this great story about this guy who just happened to be a man of faith in the Andrew Garfield character. That's a brilliant movie, by the way. Just a staggeringly wonderful movie. If you haven't seen Hacksaw Ridge, watch Hacksaw Ridge. It's incredible. But that's kind of how I differentiate them. And again, maybe it's a poor distinction. Maybe it's a poor distinction, but that is how I kind of differentiate them in my own head at any rate. All right. And the last question today comes to us from Nas, who writes, I have never seen A Quiet Place, but my girlfriend and I are going to the double feature at AMC Dolby. Dude, you are in for a treat. A very unique experience to see a movie for the first time in theaters, then immediately its sequel. That is true. You are in a very lucky, and dare I say, I'm a little bit jealous and envious of your position, that you now get to watch this, first of all, this incredibly great movie in A Quiet Place. And you're going to get to see it on the big screen for the first time, and then immediately see its sequel right after it, also on the big screen. That's an experience I don't know that I've ever had. Yeah, no, I've never had that experience where I've watched the first film on the big screen for the very first time and then immediately saw its sequel on the big screen. I don't think I've ever had that experience. That's a very cool one you get to have, Nas. So good on ya. Soak it up and enjoy it, my friend. All right. That will do it, guys, for today's installment and us getting all caught up with the companion videos. Thank you so much for being here and joining us in this video. A special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, whether they're the same as mine, different opinions of mine. That's the great thing about being film fans. We get to have these discussions. We get to have different points of view, and that's the fun thing about it. And I'm glad that you guys were here to join me along the way for it. And a special thank you to you guys who did send those questions, because not only did you give us great fun things to talk about, you also supported the channel while you were doing it. And I and everybody else involved the John Campea YouTube channel who you support, thank you very much for that. All right, guys, don't forget to join us again for the John Campea Show tomorrow. We're already working on some stories that we're going to be running for that then. Thanks so much for being here, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.